universal design for learning guidelines. Ours is representation. Um, so our table of contents, introduction to UDL representation, what is UDL, and what are the various modes of representation. Second, we'll cover perception. How can educators ensure that their content is equally perceptible? Third is language and symbols. How should educators address the use of language when implementing the UDL framework in their teaching? And fourth is comprehension. How can educators ensure students' comprehension of classroom materials? So for our introduction, what is UDL? It stands for the Universal Design for Learning. This framework helps any person who is planning lessons or curriculum to be able to limit barriers that may present themselves and give appropriate challenges as well as support to all learners. UDL begins with the breakdown of the initial barrier of the one-size-fits-all curriculum. This barrier not only affects all students, those with disabilities and those who are gifted or the average learner. It is designed to meet the needs of each student and addresses the fact that there is a great variability within learners. It aims to provide differentiated goals, different methods, and materials to support all learners. There are three principles that fall under this. The what is that there's many different ways for students to learn content that is being represented to them. Students with disabilities will require different ways to learn this content, as well as just other children who grasp knowledge in a different manner. They'll have a differentiated way of getting the information they need from the content. Second is different ways of action and expression. This means that students may do a wonderful job, for example, expressing themselves through written words, but others may do better verbally. There's not one best way for all learners to express themselves or show their action in their learning. So giving options helps each student to succeed. The why is what drives students to be engaged in what is being taught or presented. So this can come from background knowledge, culture, a bunch of different things that just keeps them engaged and wanting to learn. Some students may prefer routine, while others prefer a more laid-back approach. So there's not an ideal one-way-fits-all to engage students.
Perception. Barriers can be created when a learner is having a hard time understanding information and additional help is needed to interpret it. To make sure these barriers are built, information must be equally identified for all types of learners and their impairments. Analyzing the learner's needs and breaking these learning barriers allows room for adjustment and improvement so that all learners can understand the information in a way that is unique to them. Display of information. This is when visual material in the classroom helps in a variety of ways. It allows teachers to highlight information with colors, images, and center the placement of size and text. And the images can be helpful. These modifications can help learners see information in addition to hearing information. So some ways to do that are focusing on size of text as well as print images, using visual aids like graphs and tables, making distinguish between backgrounds and text, close-up color, adding sound and video and animation, and also having a layout that works for learners. Auditory information is sound, and sound is an important way to give information, and it can have a major impact on learners. However, this isn't the case for all learners. Some have hearing disabilities and require alternate ears to receive information. Other learners might also need more ears to process information than just verbal. Information to do this is using text, visual diagrams, charts, and graphs. Having written transcript and clips and videos, also using sign language, using analogs like emoticons, symbols, and images, visual sound effects or lyrics, and also using emotional description and movement. To give learners a visual information, although visual resources are a great way for learners to gain information, it's important to recognize their limitations. Learners who are visually impaired will have a harder time identifying visual information. For other disabilities that are sensitive to images, the selection of images need to be selected wisely so that they can recognize it. This can happen by using text and verbal words to help support images, videos, and animation. Also using sensory objects that focus around touch for the learners, and using physical objects as well.
Alright, and the third component is language and symbols. Representation of language and symbols. Students will vary in their comprehension of language and symbols used within the classroom. It is crucial for educators to provide multiple means of representation for students in order to ensure accessibility and clarity is present among the class. The UDL urges educators to keep 5 checkpoints in mind as they design lessons that are accessible to all students. These checkpoints include clarifying vocabulary and symbols, clarifying syntax and structure, support decoding of text, mathematical notations, and symbols, promote understanding across languages, and illustration through multiple media. So checkpoint 2.1 is clarifying vocabulary and symbols. Students will vary in terms of their background knowledge, language exposure, and lexical knowledge. In order to create an accessible learning experience, educators must clarify vocabulary and symbols that are used within the classroom. By providing multiple means of representation and necessary translations, all students will have the opportunity to effectively learn. And then ways that educators can clarify vocabulary and symbols include pre-teaching vocabulary, especially ones that promote connection to learners' experience and prior knowledge, provide graphic symbols with alternative text descriptions, highlighting complex terms, expressions, or quotations are composed of simpler words, embedded support for vocabulary, embedded support for unfamiliar references of the text. The second checkpoint is clarifying syntax and structure. Comprehension is crucial to the process of learning. In order for all students to have equal access to comprehension and knowledge, educators should provide students with clarity of graphical representations, syntax, and sentence structures when necessary. Examples of this include clarifying, the unfamiliar things by highlighting structural relations, by making them explicit, make connections to previously learned structures, and make relationships between elements explicit. The fourth one is promote understanding across languages. Promoting cross-linguistic understanding aids students who are bilingual or multilingual. Although the goal may be to learn one language, typically English, there is still great benefit in providing support for the student's first or dominant language. Examples of this include by making all key information in the dominant language also available in the first language. English and Spanish text, or English proficiency in ASL for learners who are deaf, link key vocabulary words and definitions and pronunciations in both dominant and heritage language, define dominant-specific vocabulary using both dominant-specific and common terms, providing electronic translation tools or links to multilingual glossaries on the web, or embed visual, non-linguistic supports for vocabulary clarifications like pictures or videos. And then lastly, illustrate through multiple media. Educators should provide students with multiple means of media. Some students will comprehend material through media such as illustrations, interactive graphics, simulations, etc., rather than solely just text. By providing various medias, educators will create a sense of accessibility within the classroom. Examples of this include present key concepts in one form of symbolic representation, with alternative form, like as, illustration, dance move it, diagram, etc., and making explicit links between information provided in the text and any accompanying representation of that information in illustrations, equations, charts, etc.
Alright, so number 4 is comprehension. There are 4 checkpoints. 1 is to activate or supply background knowledge. 2 is to highlight patterns, critical features, big ideas, and relationships. 3rd is guide information processing and visualization. And 4th is maximize transfer and generalization. The first one. So barriers and inequities exist when some learners lack the background knowledge that is critical to assimilating or using new information. Barriers can be reduced when options are available that supply or activate relevant prior knowledge or link to the prerequisite information elsewhere. For example, anchor instruction by linking to and activating relevant prior knowledge, using advanced organizers, and pre-treating critical prerequisite concepts through demonstration or models. Checkpoint number 2, highlight patterns, critical features, big ideas, and relationships. So one of the most effective ways to make information more accessible is to provide explicit cues or prompts that assist individuals in attending to those features that matter most while avoiding those that matter least. So some ways to assist is to highlight or emphasize key elements in text, graphics, diagrams, or formulas. Use multiple examples and non-examples to emphasize critical features. Use cues and prompts to draw attention to critical features. Checkpoint 3. Well-designed material can provide customized and embedded modules, scaffolds, and feedback to assist learners who have very diverse abilities in using those strategies effectively. For example, give explicit prompts for each step in sequential process, provide options for organizational methods and approaches, provide interactive models that guide exploration and new understandings, and remove unnecessary distractions unless they are essential to the instructional goal. And lastly, all learners can benefit from assistance in how to transfer the information they have to other situations, as learning is not about individual facts in isolation, and students need multiple representation. Information might be learned, but it is inaccessible in new situations. So some support for this is to provide checklists, organizers, sticky notes, and electronic reminders, incorporate explicit opportunities for review and practice, provide template and graphic organizers, concept maps to support note-taking. In conclusion, there is no ideal way to teach learners. The UDL framework aims to making learning accessible and fitted towards the variety of learners that we will encounter. UDL aims to break down the barrier of one-fits-all learning and bring to the table a more flexible approach to learning. The idea to effectively adapt curriculum from the start. And the resources that we used was CAST Universal Design. And that will be all from us today. Thank you.